Hey, thanks for tuning in to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be insightful in technology. I'm your host, Shakira, aka Shy, and I'm happy that you're tuning in today. Happy holidays, happy new year whenever you're listening to this. I wanted to get this episode out before the year ends. I want to go over the Spotify Wrapped for the podcast. If those of you who don't know, I've been running the podcast for about 3 years, going into 4 years. I have been enjoying all the experiences that have come from this podcast. I've had so much fun recording, meeting people, and just getting to know all about podcasting, the tech industry, different people, different businesses, and just different careers that you can take. I want to discuss my Spotify Wrapped. I started this podcast on Anchor, which is now called Creators for Spotify or something like that. It became podcast for Spotify, but now it's Creators. They went through a lot of changes. But I do want to just showcase some of the great things that have happened this year. When it came to growth on the podcast, we've had 131% growth this year alone. In terms of listeners, we had a 115% increase in terms of streams and 36% more followers this year. So pretty exciting with that. So thank you guys that have tuned in. I appreciate it so much. You guys have made this podcasting experience worthwhile. And the top episode is Don't Be Afraid to Pivot with Amena Mitchell. That episode was a great time. I had a great time recording. Amena is a wonderful person. That episode alone was streamed 748% more than our average episode. So props to Amena and the insight. And if you guys have not heard it, which most of you guys have, if you have not heard it, I'll make sure to link it in the show notes because that episode is inspiring. Like, she went through being laid off in the midst of the 2008 recession, and she came back onto bigger and better things. So definitely take a listen to the episode if you're in the process of making a change that you feel could be very big in your life, or just something that you want to grow in. Go ahead and check it out. One thing that surprised me when it came to listeners by age on the podcast, we have a mix between the 25, our top age range of listeners is 25 to 29. Actually, let me correct that. The top age of listening is actually on the older half of groups, but we're looking at late 20s, early 30s, and that's typically when people are in like the very beginning part of their career. They finish school, they're in, their day-to-day work. It's actually really young. So, shout out to everybody who's been tuning in. This year, podcast was streamed in about 6 countries. The youngest listeners were in Germany. Shout out to Germany. And mostly everybody else is in the US, so that's where I'm at too. I've probably met a lot of you guys that have listened to the episodes, and I really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you guys for an amazing 2024. I hope to bring better experiences and better content to you guys next year, and continue to show love to the podcast. Leave a rating, share it with a friend, put it out there for all to see. This has been a great year. I know the productive side of me is like, we can definitely make it better. And also, this one that I'm pretty proud of is our show when it came. So this podcast is also available video. It's available on video on Spotify. Our show is in the top 30% of videos podcasts on Spotify. So video consumption is over half of how people tune into the podcast, and audio is like 37%. So video is 63%, audio is 37%. So thank you guys for watching. I can see how great that the videos come across. You get to see the people, you get to see the reactions. Like, I'm definitely a visual person, so I love to see, the energy on the screen. And I'm a top 10. I'm in the top 10 of a lot of our followers, and also even in the top 5 for shows. So I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Whenever I do post the podcast, I hope to give you more episodes. That way you have way more to check in on, and you can continuously take the advice, or listening to ramp up your career, or just provide any different insights into what you're interested in, and be able to apply that to whatever you're doing. So I'm truly grateful for you guys that check in, and the listeners who tune in all the time. I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to see and connect with you guys. Like, I've actually talked with a few of you guys and had the insight and information that you guys have provided for the podcast, and I hope I am exceeding your expectations, but I would definitely love to know what else you guys would like to hear, see, have, anything. I want to make this a great experience. When you come onto the podcast, I want you to feel like you're included in the conversation. I want you to be able to listen to the podcast and know that you can take something from it. So, thank you to a wonderful and growing learning experience 2024. I hope to see and hear from more of you guys in 2025. Thank you for tuning in to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be insightful in technology. Happy New Year.